A video of Tucker Carlson taking on a woke activist has gone viral of late, and we're going to see exactly why. We're going to analyze the exchange, and we're going to see the lessons we can learn from it so as to more effectively dismantle those infected with wokeness in our own lives. You're not going to want to miss this.
As we told you yesterday, activists in California are targeting a statue of all people, President William McKinley. They claim his policies have harmed Native Americans. He certainly won't be the last American targeted this way. Madison Flynn is a member of the Wyatt Tribal Council in California, and she joins us tonight. Madison, thanks for coming on.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's pronounced Wyatt.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Well, I stand corrected and informed. So, of all the statues to prominent Americans, why does this statue offend the Wyatt tribe?
It offends the Wyatt people because the representation of that era. I don't know if you're familiar with the Wyatt history, but they were the ancestral people of the Arcata territory, where the McKinley statue is at, and they had a massacre that wiped out majority of the Wyatt people during 1860. So I mean, and then McKinley also. Although he was never there in Humboldt County, his actions that he did while as president severely affected the Native Americans throughout the United States.
Now, that was an extraordinary answer, and we could see why Tucker is so perplexed there. He asked this woman, Madison, explicitly why this statue of William McKinley offends the Wyatt tribe. And she admitted that McKinley actually didn't do anything to them. He never even set foot in Humboldt County, where the statue was. And yet, because the Wyatt were mistreated there, and because McKinley had policies that mistreated them, policies she provided no details for, his statue needs to be removed. It's an incredibly vague answer, and one that Tucker obviously wasn't impressed with.
So in the 1860s, McKinley, of course, was fighting slavery as a member of the Union Army for 3.5 years. That's, I think we both agree, a virtuous thing. He was president for a term in a very short period. What did he do specifically to hurt the Wyatt tribe?
So that's the thing. He doesn't have any significance to the Wyatt people.
Yeah, you just heard that. This activist just admitted that President William McKinley had no specific relevance to the Wyatt people, but that doesn't matter.
But where the statue is at is the issue. The statue where he is located at in the Arcata Plaza was used as an auctioning block for Native Americans, especially for Native American youth or Wyatt youth. And yeah, it was more like a human trafficking era.
Well, that's awful.
Area.
I mean, I'm not for that, but that didn't happen, obviously, during the time that he was president, because there was no slavery, of course, by his presidency, partly because of the actions that he took as a Union soldier. And so you can see that he had nothing to do with any of that. So why go to the time and expense to take his statue down? I'm confused. I'm sure there are people whose statues might be offensive, but why him?
But where the statue's at represents the human trafficking area of the Wyatt youth of that time, and where his statue's at represents that. And also after his presidency, the slavery went on after his presidency. It's just it represents a bad time for the Wyatt people, regardless. And I think it's time for his removal of his statue to put up something that represents the Wyatt people, since that is their ancestral land. And that's where they come from.
So here we come to the rub of it. We need to remove the statue because of the culture that it represents, and we need to replace it with a different culture. Boom. That, my friends, is what's technically known as pastism. It's a cultural Marxist device that, in effect, relativizes all cultural histories as equally valid, as equally meaningful. Now, of course, at one level, that is true, right? Take our personal histories as an example. My history is just as important to me as your history is to you. Of course, that goes without saying. But the cultural Marxist takes this relativization to a whole new level. Rather than take into consideration the history, the cultural memory of all people groups within an overall civilization so as to illuminate and enrich that overall civilizational memory, They designate all cultural memories as equally valid and equally important. And the only way they can do that is by amputating those cultural memories from the wider civilization to which they all belong. In other words, relegating any and all cultures as equal, no matter what their overall significance or contribution is to Western civilization, the radical equalization of culture has the inevitable effect of negating Western civilization as the overall interpretive context for the significance of a particular culture and its overall story. So how does it do this? How do they equalize all cultures so as to negate the importance of Western civilization? Well, that is where victimization comes in. Check it out.
So just having anything that, I mean, this is so mindless, it's hard to track. I want to take this seriously. I mean, your name, for example, is Madison. Madison owned slaves. Should you change your name?
Well, you should ask my parents about my name.
Well, I don't know. You can change it if you... I mean, look, I like your name. I'm not attacking your name in any way. I'm merely saying that there are certain historical figures whose presence would be offensive. I get it. I'm not discounting the idea of it, but I've asked you to explain and given you time on TV to explain what specifically about this guy warrants tearing down his statue on behalf of a people, half of whom live below the poverty line. There are a lot of problems you could be dealing with. This doesn't seem directly related to any of them. It seems like a massive waste of time when you could be improving the lives of the WIAC community, but you're not. Why?
This is going to, I mean, this is going to represent a healing process with the removal of the McKinley statue.
Okay.
So
do you think that people will live longer, happier lives? That, I don't know, the 17% of the WIATs who are unemployed will get jobs? I mean, do you really think that?
I mean, it could be telling. I mean, the healing process takes a long time.
Do you see the logic there? Because all claims to victimhood are equally important, then all histories of victimhood must be equally valid. And where and when precisely was the Wiyot tribe victimized? By representatives of Western civilization. Got it. You see, the only way you can ultimately relativize all cultures as equally important is to discard the larger civilization to which all those cultures are a part. The genius of woke cultural Marxism is that it relativizes those cultures in a shared identity of victimhood that happened at the hands of Western civilization. Victimhood both equalizes all cultures, at the same time it marginalizes Western civilization. But the beauty of it is that if you probe this belief system and subject it to some very basic level of critical thinking, as Tucker Carlson so masterfully did, you see it all just falls apart. After all, what culture is going to mediate between the grievances of the Wiyot tribe, as expressed by this woke activist, and the supposed sins of Western civilization, if it's not Western civilization? What standard of justice is going to arbitrate the supposed conflict if it's not the legal and judicial systems rooted in Western civilization? This whole debate is beyond absurd. And no one demonstrated that better than Tucker. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on a woke college student getting stunned silent when she heard something she never expected. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.